Good morning, everybody. For me, it is evening for you. That's right. Forgot about that part. Pathways, advanced level training. I want to start with, how should we say, a little definition. Let's do that. To me, in my years of Toastmasters, I see that there are two different types of people that are in the program. Those that are using Toastmasters and Pathways to go somewhere in their career or their profession, and those that are using Toastmasters or Pathways to stay within Toastmasters, especially the leadership track. And this is the end result, the end goal for them. Now, I want you to know without a doubt that I am in the second category completely, because Toastmasters for me is my volunteer organization. It's my social network. It is where I am putting my energy because I love the program. Now, with that being said, I realized as I was putting this presentation together after Elizabeth asked me that I have never been asked to talk about the advanced levels in Pathways. I've always been talking about the base levels, where people have been getting stuck, how to log in, how to do icebreakers, where to find base camp. So as I was putting this advanced training together, I realized that I was speaking in areas that I hadn't spoken before, and there's a little nervousness coming up. And I also realized that a large percentage of this presentation is going to, I hope, not sound too solipsistic, as in very self-focused, because I only have my own experiences to go from. So many people I've talked to haven't gotten to the further levels in their paths. With that being said, a few weeks ago, when I visited your club, there was a wonderful speaker that talked about his outdoor engagement with the Yukon. And his message to everybody at the end of that was he inspired people to get outside, enjoy the outside weather. This is my inspiration to you, that I inspire people to stay indoors, work on their computers, and go to Pathways. So as you can see, we're slightly different in our approaches to things. This, as it was mentioned earlier, was kind of the reception of Pathways back in 2017, and a bit of my reception. You'll be seeing a lot of cats showing up in my presentation because I am definitely a cat person. When Pathways rolled out, there was a lot of stumbling points and a lot of grumbling, and I decided to be on the proactive side of that and move forward, as opposed to be on the reactive side of that and live with all the rest of it. Although it took a period of time for me to get familiar with what's going on. I love solving problems, getting in, figuring out the details, and working with it. And I gotta admit, at certain times, working with the Pathways user interface was, well, like trying to capture a mouse that was still running around. The reason why I so enjoy working in the details is that is exactly what I do as a profession. I am a structural steel detailer for a structural steel fabricator, which means I build the 3D models of the structures, then pull them apart to create fabrication drawings for the welders in the shop. So they know exactly where to cut things, where things go, what the tolerances are, and what the interferences are. I love solving problems. I love solving the puzzles and figuring out how things work. So when Pathways was handed to us with all the problems that were inherent within it, I saw it as a challenge. I wanted to get in there and figure it out because I knew that Toastmasters wouldn't put out something that they didn't believe in wholeheartedly as a curriculum to guide the organization to the future. That desire to keep moving forward has brought me into these training videos. And specifically today, these are the topics that I will be talking about. We're hitting level 4, which I'm calling the fun level. Level 5, which involves much thought. Where I learned the most in my entire journey, which will call back to a few previous levels. The strategies I'll talk about a little bit for dealing with multiple paths and how you can do those to your best advantage. And then I'm talking about what are called the hidden nuggets. Now, I do have a Q&A listed at the end, but I will have several spots throughout the presentation while I will stop and I will answer some questions that have been put in the chat. Elizabeth will be reading those. So if you have questions, please, by all means, put them in the chat. She'll filter them out and then present them to me as we move along. Most of you are very familiar with the Pathways curriculum, the 11 paths. These are the paths that I am currently working on, those with the asterisks. And yes, I have completed presentation mastery to begin with. I've also completed the Pathways mentoring path, which they don't consider an official path, so it's not listed on this screen. Among all of these, it was a choice at the very beginning. New software, new program. I said, you know, I'm going to go for something that's pretty easy. I'm going to grab presentation mastery because I figure I'm going to focus on presentations. It won't have to deal with a whole bunch of other things. I can figure things out. I can move forward, create the detailed content that I wanted to do, and then move beyond that point. It wasn't until I got to a level 4 inside of presentation mastery that I discovered this was the level I had been waiting for. Now, back in early 2017, we had a spring conference, and our Pathways ambassador got up and gave a presentation about the upcoming Pathways. She showed us on screen what it was going to look like. It was kind of confusing because nobody knew what it was, but she said a few things that really caught my attention. Number 1, podcasting. Number 2, writing blogs. 3, social media platforms. 4, managing online meetings. And immediately I understood that Toastmasters was moving to a technical, computer-based learning model. And I was thrilled because for me, so much of the previous material had been not so applicable, especially in my business life or even in my personal life. I remember there was that one project where I was doing a cold call sales for an appliance, or some of the role plays that just didn't seem to fit anymore. The projects didn't feel relevant to me, and if they didn't feel relevant to me in my advanced years, then they definitely weren't going to feel relevant to those that are coming into the program that are familiar with technology, that live with technology. Inside of level 4, now here is, I do apologize, there are a lot of words on the screen. I am not a fan of massive words in presentations, but I really couldn't figure out how to give you this material without listing everything. These are all of the required projects inside of level 4 for all 11 paths. As you see at the end of the project, the path name is in brackets. There are 10 projects and there are 11 paths. As you can see, there's one project that shows up in 2 different paths. This happens quite a bit because we see projects that are in some paths show up in other paths because the learning you can get from them is absolutely transferable across multiple destinations. These required projects, as you can see, some of them are italicized. The italicized ones are the ones that I've completed personally, that were all in the 4 paths that I'm working my way through. I've completed 1 all the way, but on the other 3, I am working level 5 currently. So I've hit level 4 in 4 paths so far at this point. And I got to tell you, I really love level 4. These projects here have taught me an immense amount of information. The ability to get in there, to get your feet wet, to learn a concept and then go out and dive into it and figure out how to use it. The part that was so impactful to me was that Toastmasters was reaching outside of the club experience and bringing in all of the things that I wanted to do and making it part of the club. Podcasting, blogging, social media, computer use, technical aspects of that, as well as motivation, strategy, networking, etc. It was no longer this concept that you really weren't connected with. It now is the basis of the projects that you are doing. For example, and I'll talk a little bit more about it later, networking. The project inside of strategic relationships in level 3 that says make connections through networking. That's one where you have to go out, go to a networking event, experience it, then come back and give a report. And that didn't exist before. So Pathways has me going out and experiencing stuff beyond my club and club participation. It's bringing in the world and making it so much more relevant. All right, so we've had word salad here, a little bit less word salad. These are the electives for level 4. This, oh man, this is the exciting part for me. This is where I had the most fun, absolutely. The italicized projects are the one that I did. Online meetings, that's exactly what we're doing right now. This helped incredibly when moving to the Zoom platform. Public relations strategies, that was something that I pursued when I was the public relations officer for the entire district over here. I changed the title into Pathways Relation Officer because I only focused on Pathways. That was the first year that it rolled out, and I wanted to just nail those, and that's where a lot of those videos came from. Creating a podcast, we're going to dive into that in a little bit. Same with the blog. The question and answer session has the tips, especially if you work that with managing the online meetings. Running a Q&A session in an online Zoom format, there's so much logistical finagling that you have to do with your Zoom master, the chat window, managing your questions and moving forward along those lines. It is a platform where you can learn how to do it or even brush up the skills on how you've already done it and learn new pieces, new possibilities, and new ways of managing those. The managing the difficult audience was a fun one because I did this online, and in the meeting, if anyone has done this one, you're supposed to get people to play certain roles. You've got the interrupter, you've got the know-it-all, you've got the silent person, you've got all of these things. I didn't have to do any of those. I went into a meeting with, I think we had 100 people. It was our TLI presentation, and every single one of those roles was already occupied by somebody who was doing it much better than I could have assigned them. I had the one person that failed to mute themselves and was on a phone call during my presentation. Interrupter. The know-it-all, when I asked for questions, wanted to give the presentation themselves in the way that they thought it needed to be done. The silent people, well, you don't have any interaction with them much at all. But the difficult audience aspect, it's not even something you have to set up. It's something that you are experiencing normally. And I imagine many of you, like me, are doing Zoom sessions where you have somebody that's just, you're like, are you really doing that right now? Really? Are you going to do that right now? I was on a session yesterday where a lady was flossing her teeth, and it seemed to me she was using the camera as the mirror. And it was just very distracting, kind of bizarre, if you might say. So the managing the online meetings, it can be incredibly fun. And if you have that idea of taking fun into any of your projects, all of these things are going to be a blast to do. Okay, here we get into some technique here. This is the podcasting one, the one where I had the absolute most fun that I've ever had on any project within Toastmasters. What you're seeing here is my current setup right now. So it's if your camera was back here over my head, this is what the front of everything would look like. We've got the microphone right here that I've got on a swing stand with its own pop filter. The computer, the camera, all of that setup. Now, the issue you're not getting, you don't see all of this stuff over here. All you're presented with is this right here, the framing quality. I wanted to make sure that the videos that I produce were top quality and weren't distracting, were interesting, were possibly somebody would use many years later if the material was good. So I decided to invest in this. And the reality is that I didn't spend very much on the equipment. I mean, I already had my computer. The software, most of the software platforms I'm using to record videos was free online, like Audacity and a few of the others. YouTube, of course, posting the videos there doesn't cost anything. And then working with other people in my district to get some of those skills to put together a finished product has been a learning process. Because some of the earlier videos, I go back and look at them and kind of cringe at some of the things that I did. Some of these later videos, I'm cringing for a different reason, but it's fun in the process. It is It is an adventure within Toastmasters that I hadn't had for many, many years. And this is the content that I was able to create. As Elizabeth mentioned, there are 23 of the old videos that are out there on the D7 Toastmasters YouTube channel. And now there's several pieces of new ones, new videos that have out there, Busy People, our TLI sessions, some of the other sessions that I've been doing. Back when I created the old videos, I also created a character. You see, I have a background in theater. You may not have noticed. I studied theater in college. I'm a bit of a dramatic individual, so I created a character. You can see him in that lower left picture, the Pathways Guide. I went to a training event and I had a member walk up to me and hand me this bag and said, "Here, you need one of these. You are definitely a Pathways Guide." And inside of it was that pith helmet. And it's like, oh, this is perfect. I'm going to use this for the videos. And from there on out, it was the Pathways Guide character that was working through the bush, etc., dealing with Pathways issues and moving forward. As you can see now, we have a different character. Maybe it's the Pathways Colombian Guide or something along those lines. I'm not sure which, but I figured it was time to change it up, move forward, and create a new character that wanted to live in these videos. This, as you can see, the nice bit about being able to do these meetings online is I can have my emotional rescue cat right here, so that when I have problems or there's other issues, I have her close by. Unfortunately, she has walked across the keyboard several times and canceled a few of my meetings, which have been unfortunate. Maybe for me, maybe the other people were really happy that they got canceled. I'm not quite sure. The blog itself, this is another elective project inside of Level 4 where you write a compelling blog. The material with podcasting and with writing a blog, Toastmasters hints at so many different possibilities. They have a list of resources that you can use. They advise you to go to the web and search for free podcasting or free blogging services. Encourage you to compare each of those services to each one to figure out which one is going to be best for you. Do you want to pay for the service? Do you want to use a free service? How often are you going to blog? Are you going to have pictures in your blog? Are you going to have audio links, etc.? Well, I took my love of reading and writing, and I've been having so much fun the last several years building my own personal library. I love books. I love the smell of books, the touch, the feel, the interactive quality of hard copy. Yes, hard copy. I love it, as well as working on computers. And I enjoy writing articles and inspirations and various things. And I realized that I wanted to put both of those together, but I didn't really have a platform. I didn't have something that I really wanted to say. And then, of course, it hit me. Toastmasters. This is my platform. This is my passion. This is where I'm spending my time. And cats. Because Toastmasters and cats, yes, this is one of my coworkers who sleeps on my desk most times, so everything has to be on the computer. So I combined Toastmasters and cats, and I've got an ongoing article series that I've been doing for our own district e-zine. We've got a magazine that's been put out by one of the individuals in our district, Phyllis Harmon. It's called Voices. It now has a worldwide distribution because it's an electronic format. So every month, every single month, we're putting out a new issue of Voices, and every single month I'm sticking a new article in there. So I grabbed those articles and used those as the basis for the blog, because the monthly magazine was my blog. Now, they wouldn't look so good without her help, because she's the one that put all of the graphics and the various other things inside of those magazines. And if you're interested in looking at a really high quality, just district level, volunteer-based e-zine, I encourage you to go to the d7toastmasters.org webpage and look at Voices. Multiple back issues, lots of inspiring information. I'm only one of the writers in those. There are a lot of people that have been contributing incredible amounts of material over the years, and it's been going for, my goodness, I don't know how many years now, but several. several years we've been putting this information together. Okay, so you've just been hit with a category 5 or more storm of word salad, imagery, and all of my stuff just throwing in there. I want you to remember, with level 4, by all means, have fun with it. So now we're going to pause. I'm going to pause for a minute and ask if there are any questions that Elizabeth wants to throw at me.
I think people have been so captivated, they haven't been writing questions, but a couple have just come in. Claire would like to know, can the podcast be a vlog? Can it be a video
Absolutely.
vlog?
Yeah, and that's the piece that I really like about these projects, is that they are not set in stone. I've taken the projects and molded them to exactly how I wanted to do it. Because if you look at my videos on YouTube, they're not really a podcast because I'm not interviewing anybody else. I took the Pathways Guide sessions. I was supposed to meet with my VPEs once a week and support them, and turned them into video training events that I opened up to everybody. And then realized I needed short videos to explain little bits and pieces of those. So absolutely, take these projects, mold them to how it's going to work best for you. That's how these projects are meant to be, because they're going to be aiding you either in your professional life, your personal life, in your Toastmasters life. If you can find a way to take the material that's there and fit it into the mold of what you're already doing to help you achieve or move forward in some area, then that is the success of Pathways. I would encourage you not to get stuck on the details of, well, this has to be a podcast with me and one other person, or this has to be a blog that's on a blog site. No, the idea is getting behind learning something new, moving forward with that, learning the technology, learning the possibilities of how this can help you in your further life, and then having fun with it. So that's a great question, Claire. Absolutely. Anything else, Elizabeth?
Yes, I have a question for you. Podcast sounds very exciting and so on, but in practice, how much sort of technical know-how is required?
Very good one. I'll listen to podcasts on the air and I'll think, oh my goodness, I'll never be able to produce something of that high quality. They've got sound effects, they've got cuts, they've got interludes, they have interesting people from all over the place. They don't have any reverb or echo in their room because they're recording in a professional studio. And I realized I wasn't going to be able to put out a final, clean, clear, wonderful product right at the end. But I also realized that if I didn't get started, I wasn't going to put anything out. Some of the first videos that I ever created, I have taken off of public. They are now private videos completely because I am not sharing them, because I learned so many new things in the process. I encourage you to start into it at whatever level you are, because wherever you are, if you start that journey, you're going to start your learning. If you wait to start your journey, there's no learning that's going to be happening. More of what I'm going to do is I'm going to start worrying about this or worrying about that, and nothing's ever going to get done. I mean, they say that the hardest part of a journey is the first step. That's very true, especially here.
And I think there's and technical guidance, is there a lot of that on the internet one can sort of go and pick up oneself? Yeah. Absolutely.
As much as there are videos about Pathways out there that you don't really need mine in the sphere, there is so much information on the internet, as you very well know. Some of it is useful, some of it not so useful. It's a matter of combing through and figuring out what's going to help you the most.
Okay. One last question. We can now do the projects in any order, but I'm correct when I say, when you give those as educational points, you've got to give them in order. You can't just put 4 before 2 or 4 before 1. It has to be in order. Is that correct?
No, you can present them and do the projects in any order you want.
But when you are doing your educational awards on TMI,
right?
You cannot.
When you're getting your awards, they have to be in order.
They have to be in order.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Now we have a lady in the club that I'm in right now. She was doing a
Mm,
level 4 project, finished that level 4 project, and then has
yeah.
gone back to level 2 to finish it up so that she can get, you know, as soon as she gets to that point in the award stream, she'll
Yes.
get the level 4 immediately.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay. You may continue. We're keen to hear more from you, and I will watch the chat very clearly, very fervently.
Right. And I'm just double checking my time.
Okay.
Okay.
You've got some time. You've got another um 10 minutes, because we had sort of 10 minutes at the end for question, then there's
Cool.
hat judging and all sorts of things. So you can carry on.
All right. We're ready to dive back in?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go. Level 5. This is what I'm referring to as the thought level. This is where you're encouraged to slow down, think about, reflect on your path, and really consider what's going on. These projects are meant to take a significant portion of time, up to 6 months for some of these projects is the recommended time period for you to do them. As you can see, we have multiple projects and they show up in multiple paths, especially the required ones. Now in level 4, you had 1 required project and 2 elective projects. In level 5, you have required project and 1 elective project. So there's something you have to do. And then most of the time, those electives, as you can see here, like high performance leadership shows up multiple times. You could also choose to do high performance leadership as an elective in the other paths where it's not a required project. Level 5, more than 4, these projects will show up as required and electives. So you can do them kind of back and forth because here's your required list, here's your elective list. It's essentially the same projects. If we go back to like leading in your volunteer organization is the third up from the bottom there, which shows up in strategic relationships. Well, I did those that are italicized are the ones that I've done here. Leading in the volunteer organization, where this project, they encourage you to be a leader in a volunteer organization, any volunteer organization, could be Toastmasters, could be anywhere, or even, actually it doesn't even say volunteer organization, it says organization. So this would also work in a professional realm, artistic realm, anywhere, as long as you're leading in a volunteer, some volunteer capacity, because I know multiple organizations have volunteers. This one, you do it for 6 months. A 6-month period of time where you are leading, and then you ask the people that have been in your team or those that have worked directly with you to provide you with a 360-degree evaluation, which is a specific type of evaluation that I really like, and we're going to get that in just a second. Now, if we back up here to the required ones, you see that multiple projects the ones that I've done here have shown up elsewhere. Now, the fact I really like is you can see the one on the bottom when they brought in the engaging humor path. I had to grab that one just for something fun to do for a while last year, and I'm still working at it and loving it, is that so many of these are complementary. You show up here in the required, you end up doing them in the electives, and you spend a significant amount of time with them and with the people that you're working on those. I'm looking forward to the ethical leadership one. I've got that one coming up in another one of my paths, and I think that'll be an intriguing one to do, especially with, with so many things that are going on in the world right now. Ethical leadership, I think, it's an ideal thing for many people to encourage. This is the 360-degree evaluation. Now, the standard pathways evaluation is just those 3 sheets. Essentially, you've got that first sheet that says, what did you do well? How could you improve? And to challenge yourself. And then the backside of that, the radio buttons on the rating scheme, and the third sheet telling you what it all means. This 360-degree evaluation is a 6-page evaluation document that looks at almost every aspect of leading and managing projects and of interacting with people. This, my goodness, this is an incredible, absolutely incredible resource to get really detailed information from people you are working with about your strengths, about how you can improve your interactions and how you can improve how you manage things. and for places where you can look to expand and grow in your own life. After I did the leading in your volunteer organization, I handed these out after I was the public relation officer for our district for an entire year. I gave them to the trio members. I gave them to those people that I'd worked with closely. And then I realized that I just gave them to the people that are the most busy within my district. And I thought, you know, they're probably going to get really busy and not have a chance to fill these out. So I waited about 4 days and realized, you know, I probably should incentivize this. And so I emailed each one of them and said, you know what? You fill out a 360 evaluation and send it back to me. I'm going to put your name into a drawing for a pair of movie tickets. And I'm giving out 4. So that means 2 different people are going to win 2 different movie tickets. So I went at that point when we could still go to theaters, grabbed some movie tickets, had those, and incentivized getting feedback back from some of the most busy people in my district. And I got to say, it actually worked. Out of the 8 people that I sent evaluations to, I got 7 evaluations back. The 8th person, when I finally contacted them, unfortunately couldn't even locate the email. They'd seen it at some point, and I think their computer blew up and it just disappeared. So when I got all of those 7 back, held my own little private drawing, informed them, mailed off the movie tickets, and the responses I got back was, wow, I don't think I've ever received a prize from evaluating somebody. This is kind of fun. And so it encouraged them to incentivize getting evaluations from other people. Because this 6-page document, you are asking for a lot of time commitment from somebody. Now, hopefully you've had a good relationship with them over the period of time you've volunteered, that they're interested and willing to give you that feedback. But yeah, I think my grandmother said it best. You catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. So I like to incentivize. I like to make it so that people want to respond. This tool, if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to look it up. You can go in Basecamp to the little search box in the upper right-hand corner, type in 360 evaluation, and you should be able to see, you know, it'll drop down. You should be able to click on that and open it up and look at it for yourself. This is a tool that I'm planning on using in other areas outside of Toastmasters because it has such a comprehensive approach. The other required aspect of level 5, reflect on your path. Now, this used to be part of level 5 because when I did presentation mastery, this was one of the steps inside of level 5, required me to do a reflect on my path. Now, when I look at the projects, they've moved reflect on your path outside of level 5 and put it down at path completion as the very last thing you're doing before you complete your path. I can't say for 100%, sure why they did that, but I suspect they want you to do that very last as opposed to in the middle of doing some of the other projects. This reflect on your path asks you to do exactly that. Look at what you learned. Look at what you worked on. Look at the entire breadth of time that you spent with this path, with all of the projects, with all of the interaction you did in the material, and give a speech to your club on what you learned. I just heard one of these in my home club 2 weeks ago, and it was phenomenal because she was talking about all of the aspects of learning inside the path that she hadn't even realized were going to be learning points for her, as well as the fun that she had in the process. It's a phenomenal project, and it encourages you to look back on where you came from and build on that. So often we are focused on moving forward into the future that we fail to look back and realize, yeah, we did all of that, and now we're here because we have the learning. Fantastic project. Okay, this is another pause for questions. Do we have anything to throw forward here, Elizabeth? Oh, and this is my opportunity to introduce you to my favorite web comment, theoatmeal.com. I love him.
Nothing in the chat, but I suspect people are so busy listening.
Yeah.
So does anyone have any questions for James? You can just chat, or you can just answer questions.
I had one which I did put in the chat, but don't know where it's gone. It was a question of how would you say that from the mentoring perspective, we should tackle mentoring people through. Most people haven't done it. So just your views on mentoring at that level.
Absolutely. Mentoring is coming up, and that is a subject I'm going to get to. So can we hold that one for the next, I think it's the next section, actually. You're just a little bit ahead of me. Will that work for you?
Yeah, that will work for Phil.
Okay, yes, I saw a thumbs up. Great. Okay. So here, look at this. Pathways mentoring. Phil, he was reading my mind. This is the next topic. This is the section where I talk about what I learned the most. Pathways mentoring project, which is, well, I had it wrong. I thought it was coaching. It's not coaching. Mentorship and coaching entirely different. And I had to go back and apologize to several mentees that I had because I was a terrible mentor. Absolutely terrible. For those of you who don't know, the Pathways Mentoring Project will show up after you complete level 2 of your first path, and it'll show up down in that left-hand corner under suggested learning. All you have to do is click on that and then activate it, and it will show up in your educational transcript as an entire path for you to do. These are the projects within that mentorship program. You've got preparation, mentoring, advanced mentoring, and then the completion. Each one of these steps you through the process, explains so much more than anything that I used to know. Our club had this program of mentoring where a new member would come in and they would just get stuck with an old member and say, okay, you're the mentor, with no real training and no real sense of what that meant. So we did coffee dates. We talked about how you do your icebreaker. We did, but now the mentoring, especially if you look at the material here, is asking the mentor to work with a mentee to find out what their goals are inside of Toastmasters, outside of Toastmasters, figure out how to help them and how to help them move forward. So our club has taken this model and slightly blended it with, the new people that come in. What we're doing is we're encouraging the new members that come in. We're not assigning them a mentor right away. We're letting them know if you'd like a mentor, you're more than welcome to have one. And in fact, if you see somebody in this club who has something along the lines of what you're looking for, by all means, ask them to be your mentor. And we found that this has been a really good fit for where we're going forward, because we have people that have been in corporate life for a long time, and somebody new coming in sees something in them. It's like, okay, I like how they work the team stuff here, and I want to learn more of that from them. I had a mentee come to me and said, I love the way you do presentations. I want to learn how to do those and infect them with energy. I want to be your mentee. And that has created a more dynamic fit of people that are helping other people reach their goals because they see something that they want from them. I'm not saying that this is the best fit for everybody because there's so many different possibilities of mentoring out there, but let your club know that this is an option. Getting a mentor is an option, because so many times we just leave it unsaid and new people come in, they don't realize there's a mentor program, or maybe somebody mentioned it 6 months ago, it hasn't shown back up again, and we assume it's doing great. Well, unfortunately, if you assume your mentorship program's doing great, that usually means it's flatlined, unless you're getting actual feedback from mentees or mentors about what's going on. I'd suggest sending out an email or even a questionnaire to those members in the club. What do they want from the program? How's it working? All of those are possibilities. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is more of the mentoring thing. This is the overview, which I found to be incredibly helpful for myself because it evaluated for me, helped me figure out where I was not meeting up to my mentoring needs, where I wasn't, I was being a coach instead of a mentor. I didn't have their best interests in mind. I was doing it to get my own praise, which is a really bad reason to be a mentor, to get recognized, because it turned it into me and not them. The tools that are presented inside of the mentoring program help you understand, help me understand the differences between those. They're not complete, so I went and looked at up other sources outside of Toastmasters that helped me immeasurably on that. Then the project completion form, when you get done with that path, you simply sign this form and you give it to your VPE, who then goes in and marks it off. There isn't a final a final speech to this. It is more of building a relationship and having a mentee that your VPE or your mentor coordinator sets up with you. Then, once you've completed the mentor program, on your profiles, you can see right down there at the bottom, Pathways Mentor, you get a little yes as opposed to a no. So that's the sum result, so that when people come in, look at your profile within Toastmasters inside of your club, they can see that you have completed that and you are technically the Pathways Trained Mentor. So hopefully that helped a little bit with the mentoring questions on that. Did you have, Philip, anything else?
Yeah, so I think that was very useful, James, but I think my question was a bit more clinical. Okay. So it was, I think in terms of level 1 to level 3, I think we're okay. But when you get to level 4, when you're speaking outside, and so you're doing either the fun or the thinking, and you're doing outside projects, then the mentoring in terms of who you match it up with, in terms of the experience, is not the same. It's a different. To me, it would mean that the mentoring requirements are more challenging, because not everyone will have experience in the areas of those projects. So that was the real question.
Okay, I see where you're coming from.
People haven't done podcasts, they haven't done blogs, they haven't done leaderships, they may not have in all these areas that you're asking them to do in level 4 and 5. They haven't got the experience. We may not have those people in there. I'm just wondering if we need to get them through there, what's the advice of getting people through it?
Mentors can learn just as easily as the mentees. My example, the mentee that I have right now, that is now the Pathways coordinator behind me, I am mentoring her through the entire path because she's doing a presentation mastery path and I'm familiar with it. Now, she is picking projects that I'm not familiar with. I've been going in and just reading up on those and making sure I knew the functionality of that. But the biggest takeaway that I've had from mentoring is simply being available to communicate with her when she's got questions, got issues, wants to work out something. We do Zoom meetings every week for an hour if she needs them and if she doesn't. So I've made myself just available. And if she runs into something that I'm not familiar with, I'm frankly honest with her and say, you know what? I don't have any experience in that, but you know who does? And then that's where the networking comes in. I'll often point them to her to someone else who has those skills, who can mentor her in that area that I cannot. And that, I think, is the networking and the mentoring, is realizing where your own limitations are and where you can point them to somebody who's going to help them go even further. I have no desire to be in upper district leadership. I will never be a trio member because that's not my forte. She wants to be. So I hooked her up with a past district governor to be her mentor for higher level leadership stuff. And that's somebody that's outside of our club, because I see mentorship as a much more large as opposed to just within the club. At some point you need people from outside as well. So hopefully that helps a little bit. I'm going to step into the next section here with section number 2 of where I learned the most. Of course, the podcasting, which I've spoken about ad nauseum already. We're not going to recover that. Number 3, strategic relationships. This is the networking bit that I keep talking about. And I got to tell you, I hate networking. I'm an introvert. I do not like going into rooms of people. I do not like conversing in, chatting about things. I'd rather get to the meat of stuff. I'd rather figure it out and have those crucial conversations. My first networking event, I walked up to a lady and I asked her, I said, so where are you from? And then realized I had to ask another question. So I didn't hear anything that she said to me. So 5 minutes later, when she's done talking, I asked her the same question again. Oh, so where are you from? Because I couldn't remember what I had said. Yeah, that was a bit of a network fail on that one. That's for certain. But I kept going back to those because I knew it was important. Unfortunately, I ended up in the corner talking to the potted plants most of the time. Now, the good news is the potted plant and I have a really good relationship now, and we've got some great connections with azaleas and some shrubs on the outside. I got into strategic relationships, and because I was one of the first that was doing it, Toastmasters reached out to me and they sent a film crew, and we actually did a video of relationship rejuvenation, which is on the website, which is about me learning about strategic relationships, which was all fine and dandy until our world changed. And now we no longer meet in person. We're behind the computer. And this is my little small pitch for how networking has changed. Opportunity has opened up. There's much more control and a whole lot of comfort. The opportunity, well, I'm giving a presentation to you. I'm in Oregon. It is currently just past noon. I'm, lunch break for me, essentially. And I'm speaking to you in the evening. The opportunity to have the meetings across the world is fantastic. I've got an evaluation seminar that I'm doing next month for a club in Thailand. It's like, holy smokes, this would never have happened for me. So this opportunity is great. Back-to-back meetings, being able to virtually go places that I'd never go before, getting out of my comfort zone. So many of the networking, especially the business networking ones, have reduced their fees because they want to get people in and they're online, that it's cheaper to do those projects than before. It's also possible to do stuff you've never done before, like learning how to crochet or figuring out where to find the best hat or a gaming. I mean, that's my next one. I'm going to find a gaming networking group to get involved in because I like that. The control aspect, I love it. You can mute people when you don't want to listen to them. Imagine doing that in real life. Sticking a hand over somebody's mouth doesn't work. There's also the possibility of running music in the background, having an app going on your computer and you're listening to music while somebody's going on with something else. I love being able to control my own temperature in my room, a ceiling fan and air conditioning going because it's going to be over 90 degrees today and she's almost there right now. And if I ever want to leave a networking event where I'm not really comfortable with, I can always blame it on an untrustworthy Wi-Fi signal and slip out the back instead of having to get up and walk out of the room. And these are things, all of the things I've discovered that are absolutely unnecessary for networking anymore. Absolutely. No cars, no bikes. You don't have to smell me. I don't have to smell you. You don't have to even know that I haven't washed these clothes in months. Because you're not here. It's great. I love it. I absolutely love it. And this can be your virtual background. This can be your peace of mind, even if this is what you are living in. I love the new networking. I don't have to touch anybody and nobody has to touch me because frankly, the three words that scare me the most in the world, even before the pandemic, was I'm a hugger. I am not a hugger. I am one of those people that does not appreciate being touched that much. So the fact that you can't, the fact that no one is bothering me, the fact that I can use my own restroom instead of a public restroom is fantastic. So I am liking this new normal as far as networking goes. And inside of Pathways, it's amazing how much of this is becoming real. The emotional rescue cat for comfort purposes keeps me happy. And, oh, hey, there's another question break. But, you know what? I'm going to go right through because I see we're at 10:26. I'm going to hit on these hidden nuggets really quick. 10:26, actually. Am I past time, Elizabeth?
You've got a couple of minutes. You can keep going.
Oh, boy. I knew it. I had too much content. Okay, so inside of level 2, I love this presentation, effective body language. It's like watching Dame Judi Dench try to do community theater. The first time through, you can tell the speaker isn't that good at all. And the second time through, she is so good. If you haven't seen this one inside of Presentation Mastery, absolutely take a look at it. This one is a new one that popped up inside of the Engaging Humor path. It's a story collection. It's an online connection where you can actually save your stories and your content to be able to use in other presentations. This didn't exist in Pathways until real recently because you weren't saving anything except for in your documents folder and it wasn't that great. I encourage you to look in that. So far, I've only seen it in Engaging Humor and in none of the other paths. So if you're not doing that one, of course, you're not running into it. Also in the Engaging Humor, I love the videos by Darren LaCroix. I had the opportunity to meet him. He won, I think it was the 2001 World Public Speaking through Toastmasters, the champion. absolutely funny guy. His videos are wonderful gems because I learn a lot from him on comic timing. This, frustration that I just found out that I want to share with you. The evaluation forms. People have been having some issues with those. You can get them through your path, through the speech evaluations, and by searching them. This, as you're familiar with, printing out your evaluation resource. The problem being, and here we'll get to this screen right here explains it, that if you grab an evaluation resource from your project, it is not editable. But if you grab an evaluation resource from the page that has all the evaluation resource, it is editable. And what you're looking for is, you see that little bit down there in the file name, if it has FFE, that means you're able to type into the form. If it doesn't have that when you download it, you're not going to be able to. This one is just hit me, and a few other people noticed it, so I want to share that with you. And I'm done. Woo! That's it.